Quarantine means more parts. Alright, welcome back. This has been a year since I've had the Killer B AOS. So we're going to do a 1-year review on it, and then we are going to get rid of it because it's not performing the way I want it to. Now, my engine has been well taken care of if you guys followed me from the start. Before I did all the power upgrades, I did a compression test, and they were all within 150 psi, give or take 1 or 2, you know, from one cylinder or two. Number 4 surprisingly was higher, so that's a good sign. And my leak down tests were within 1%. Not only that, I do have good vacuum. I never noticed any sort of knocking or like dam dropping or oil spitting out my exhaust. So the reason why I ditched my Barroso setup for Killer B is because I thought that the system would be overwhelmed when I went to the 20G, which I have now. Perhaps maybe I should have kept it and see how it went before upgrading, but the Barroso setup did a great job at catching everything. I mean everything. Not to say Perrin's AOS was good. It had to be augmented with a catch can or Barroso AOS, you know, redundantly to stop everything. And as with this case, I had to use a Radium catch can with the Killer B AOS. When I first got this AOS, I was on a stock turbo with just a equal length header intake, and that's basically it for power mods. I mean, maybe a catback, but it doesn't count. I made 301 wheel horsepower, 321 torque. At a certain point, there was some evidence of oil going to the front port, so I added this guy just for a little bit, and you know, it was just a quick scare. Nothing was in here. However, when I upgraded to the 20G, on inspection of the turbo inlet hose on the front, there was some evidence going in there, and I even took off the intake and looked inside, and then, you know, I found oil. So that's not a good sign. But yeah, so I kept this here, and every 1,000 miles or so I would check it, and there was evidence of oil. There was evidence of oil bypassing through that. I even cracked it open, and you guys could see from before on my IG account, I've shared with everyone that, you know, it doesn't catch everything based on its design. It's based on a cyclone design for industrial purposes, and to me, the way it's designed is not as good as it should be, because you have packaging constraints in the engine bay. Right, you can only fit an AOS that's so tall, and you know, you're only constricted to this section here. I've not only experienced this myself, there are a handful of others. I guess they want to remain anonymous, but they are having problems with it, as well as other AOSs on the market. I've been gathering data. IAG Street, they've been bypassing oil in the intake manifold. Perrin's did, that's why I added the Barroso back then. Crawford's doing the same thing. Anything that retains a PCV, you know, you'll find nothing on the turbo inlet or intercooler, but the silent killer, like I said, for everybody else, is, you know, where the PCV valve is, and that's always sucking at idle and low loads when vacuum is very high. Okay, so I reached 1,000 miles with this oil change. So like I said, it's been over a year, and every time I check, there's oil in here. So just removing the 10mm bolt and spacer, and I'll be unscrewing this. Every time I check with the dipstick, there's never enough oil to even read anything or register any kind of reading, so I always just remove the lower half and see what we get. Okay, so it's about the same always. About a beer cap full. This is 1,000, so imagine 3,000 miles. And my last oil change, I actually had to refill a quarter of a oil quart of oil. Okay, well, if you don't have an AOS, that's really good with the aftermarket turbo. Even for a stock turbo, quarter of a quart loss. See if it's being ingested in your engine, it's totally normal. I should just leave this off. I'm going to take everything off anyway. But like I said, increased power, quarter of a quart is nothing. So that's still good. But that is supposed to do its job, draining everything else. So if you look from the back, the drain is at a downward slope going here. That was suggested by Killer B. I run their oil control valve, which used to go this way here, right, and then tee into the cylinder head ports, because the oil control valve is connected to the cylinder head ports, right? So it used to go there, but I've gone this way. I'll tell you that in a little bit why. And then that's it. Everything else, I've raised this a little higher just to make sure it does have a drain, but somehow it's still allowing oil to pass through. So I'm going to remove it and we'll see inside. Okay, so we got the system off the car. Keep in mind this is the same exact table that we did the inspection of the Peroso system. So we can all agree that there's some kind of consistency going on here. Okay, enough of that. So this is the Killer B air oil separator system, and this is exactly how I had it installed in the car. So let's start from the crankcase port here. It's about a 2 3/4 inch length of 3/4 hose going to a T. Alright, so it goes up to a 3/4. They don't include this. I made this myself, or I fabricated the lines myself. But these are push lock hoses, 12A end. Got these from Summit Racing, and they all swivel. Okay, so we keep following. We got the 3/4 ID hose. These are air equipped hoses, really robust racing hoses. They go inside, they spin. And at the same time, we got the cylinder head ports coming in 1/2 inch inner diameter. It goes down, comes back up, and it comes out of this dash 10 or 5/8 inner diameter hose. And this is where it goes to the intake. But I wanted to see and show you guys how it looks inside, because I've taken it apart once before, and we'll see how it looks like now from the, I want to say, the last oil change and 1,000 miles later. Okay, so we got the 3mm head M6 bolts out. Let's go ahead and take it off. And here's the inner body with the outlet, and you can see that some of the oil has made its way back in. I cleaned it up right after my oil change, and all this sludge is normal. Alright, so we got some browning in there. You can see there's evidence. Let's go look inside the unit. Really nasty, but you know, it's to be expected. Alright, so up here you've got the crankcase port at the very top. Actually, the cylinder head port at the very top. And they all turn in. So as you install this body, it's supposed to seal the outside areas. So that way only blow-by goes around here. And they meet over here. It's supposed to speed up. Throw the oil centrifugally out to the sides, and then there's supposed to be some kind of centripetal force in the center generating to draw just the air up and out the top port here. Now, based on the drain patterns, it looks like oil's been sitting on the sides and not really moving as fast as it should. Also, when the gases come in, say actually the top here, as it comes down, it hits that, and there's only a small crack of space for it to move in between, if you know what I'm saying. So you see that. So I'm kind of confused as to how this works. And as the crankcase port goes down here and meets up with the lower cylinder head port, you know, it's also sealed. So there's a way that maybe air gets trapped somehow. It has to fight its way out. It's not moving as fast as it should. So the way these things are supposed to work is you got tangential ports coming in, and they're supposed to spin at the outside areas, right, to throw all the heavy droplets, you know, with inertia. And then they're all supposed to, you know, slow the way down And now, like I said, the only thing coming back up is air. Okay, so it is bringing the fluid down, but there are bowls down there. You can see where the water shimmers. Those aren't the drains. The drain is like at the very bottom, right in the center where it's dark. And then there's threads sticking up too because of this. Because you can only position this at a certain angle to point towards the drain going, towards the engine. And if you go any higher, you're going to raise the thread up, and then the water's going to stay in there and not be the lowest point to drain, right? So you've got water in there, you've got the gases coming in, you've got vacuum pulling all that up. And keep in mind now, see how low this inner chamber sits in relation to the bottom drain where the bowl is, or the bowls are. And it looks like it could, they could potentially suck all that oil. That's why you find it in here. I would say to improve it, maybe lessen the diameter, keep it as high as your lowest port coming in, your tangential port. Remove all these turning vanes and shave down the material where the air comes in, because that's a bottleneck right there, or if anything, it's a total blockage. Like I said, I'm not the only one who has this problem of oil bypassing. I mean, it's a nice product. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing on Killer B. They make excellent products. The Holy Header oil control valve, I run their oil pickup, which is like one of the best in the market. In fact, the best. The windage tray, they got the pan. I got their dual reservoir washer and coolant tank. And my suggestion is, if you guys run one of these, throw one of these inside the center. Just make sure you get really anal about all the little shavings. Make sure you get them all out, because you don't want any of that going in there. But just make sure you police the shit out of it, right? And then make sure it's clean. You shove it in there. There's not enough vacuum that'll suck this whole thing out. All right, you're looking at maybe 1 to 2 psi of vacuum coming from your compressor, depending on the size of your turbo. But throw this in, see what happens, because running this catch can was the same thing. There's also dense media right in there, but that proves to be less restrictive, I hope. But try to do that. It's just a $2 part, $2 piece from the grocery store. Something. See how it works. Throw that in there. All right. So what do I think? I mean, for $600, I would look elsewhere. But like I said, if you can try doing this, or if you run a near stock engine, this would be fine for now. I'm just pushing 330 wheel horsepower and 351 torque. Not much, by any stretch. This ends the 1-year review and inspection of the Killer B AOS. I'll be going to my alternate solution, which I'll be uploading pretty soon. If you guys like what you see, like and subscribe. See you guys later.